Hey everybody, today I'm going to show you how to make a post-workout snack that is macro-friendly, easy to make, and tastes way better than it probably should. So if you're intimidated by doing anything in the kitchen, I can promise you this is easy enough, it's not going to scare you off, and you're going to want to see this. Everybody, thanks for watching. I'm Darren Starr, coach here at 5 Star Physique. Now, the goal that I had for this video here, I wanted to make a protein bar that was macro-friendly and fairly easy to make, and something that I could batch up and would be tasty, delicious, and be better than store-bought options. So what I ended up making, however, in my attempts to do this, is I just did a small batch, like an individual serving, and it was so good. I never actually got to the point where I could make a whole bunch of them at once. So what I'm going to show you is what I did, and then I'm making these one at a time at this point. Now you could scale the batch up, at which point you would want to put it into like a baking sheet or something like that, refrigerate it, cut it up into bars. You can do all that. It's just so easy though that you can easily whip this up in about 5 minutes or less. And just eat it straight out of what you mix it into, which is why I call this the protein bar batter bomb. So it's really awesome. The thing that I have, if you look up protein bar recipes online, it's stupid because most of them are protein bars that have somewhere between like 7 and 11 grams of protein per. So as bodybuilders, that's not really going to cut it. So the macros that I'm going to show you here, and this recipe is got a lot of variability built into it, but the macros for this are 49 grams of protein, 44 grams of carbs, 5 grams of fat. There's a couple of options that we can explore that are going to adjust those macros a little bit. So if you want something that's a little lower in carbs, a little higher in fat, you can certainly drop the protein serving down as well. Lots of flexibility here. So let's dig into it and see how this thing gets put together. So once again, this thing is super easy to whip up, which is the entire point of it, because I'm an idiot in the kitchen, and I don't assume that anybody that I'm working with has any kind of kitchen skills whatsoever, so I wanted to keep this really basic. So just got a few ingredients. We're going to use peanut butter, oats, and protein powder as the base ingredients. Then we're going to play around and add a little bit of cinnamon, some honey, some almond extract, and a little sugar-free jell-o here as well. So those are all optional, but I would recommend it. Play around with it a little bit. So instead of peanut butter, I'm using this, it's the brand that Publix had. It's kind of like PB2. Same basic thing, it's chocolate flavored, which is optional. You could do this with regular peanut butter. You could do it with regular almond butter as well if you wanted something this is a little more carbs, less fat, however. So if you use peanut butter or almond butter, I would recommend portioning it out into a container about this size, or you could actually, I'm putting it in this size because I want to mix it up with water in here. You could put it in the final thing, which is going to be a bowl about this big, which should be totally appropriate. Just give you enough room to mix things in, but I would recommend microwaving that for about 25 seconds or so, just to soften it up a little bit, because then it'll be easier to work into everything else. So what I'm going to do here is just add a little bit of water to this guy. Hopefully I don't overdo it. So I measured out 3 tablespoons of this dry mix here. You got to be careful with how much water you add because you can overdo it really quickly. So I'm just going to do this in very small increments here. If you've played around with this PB2 stuff before, you kind of know how it works. Everything's fine, everything's fine. You add a little bit more water and then suddenly, boom. You just got a watery mess on your hands. So I take this very conservatively here. Just a little bit at a time. And you'll know when you're in the right zone because it's going to look and act and move around and stir up like peanut butter. So get something that looks kind of like that. That's about right. It does look a little disgusting, but you know what? So does peanut butter if you just look at it on a spoon. So we're going to take that. We're going to transfer this over to the main bowl at this point. I just wanted it in this little guy just because it's easier to mix up. Get it all in there. And there we go. That's the peanut butter. So from here now, I've got the food scale out, but I'm going to eyeball this actually because I know about what it should look like. So the next thing is protein powder. So I use Isopure. So another thing that I wanted with this is I wanted it to be lactose-free. So using Isopure here, I also wanted it to be gluten-free. And we'll get to that in a moment here. So this recipe calls for 1.5 scoops. So we're going to mix that in. There's one and, a half-ish. And then we will add our sugar-free jell-o pudding mix onto that. And again, a serving of this is 11 grams. I'm going for a little less than that. I know what it looks like. It's about that much right there. And again, this adds a minimal amount of carbs, so you're not really messing things up too bad if you're estimating here and making some assumptions. So then we'll add a little bit of water. We're going to mix this up. And again, you'll know when it's right. You'll know when you don't have enough. You can see right here. Clearly, I don't have enough. But give it a second and stir everything in, and then make your judgment call. Like, okay, we need to add more to this. Just a little bit. We're close. We're close there. That might have overdone it there. But also at this stage, if you go a little crazy on the water, we are about to add the oats, which is going to thicken everything up, and so the extra water will actually be put to good use. So you can see it's a little watery at this stage. It's not bad though. That'll come out in the wash. We'll fix that up nice. So just stir it together so it's a nice smooth consistency here. And then this is the point where it's a good time to add the cinnamon. Just a little sprinkle of that. Just a tiny little splash of almond extract. You can really overdo it with this, so be careful. And then the recipe that I created calls for about a teaspoon of honey. So I'm just going to do a quick little squirt in here. Just about like that. We're getting about 5 grams of carbs from this. That's totally optional, but does really, really kind of change things a bit. So I think it's worth it. This should make a pretty nice mixture at this point. It's a little bit thinner than how I normally make it, just because I got a little carried away with the water. But we're going to add the oats now. And I'm using gluten-free Quaker oats. This is a good find, because I just know that my body does not tolerate gluten particularly well. But nonetheless, the oats are a really good binder for this material. Doing a half a cup here, so using a quarter cup twice. Then we just stir it all together. And you can see how this comes together. It's going to thicken up as we add the oats in here for the binder. And, if you like it thicker, great. Just, don't add as much water and know that it's going to be a little harder to stir around. And if you like it a little bit, I hate to use the word runny because that just sounds disgusting and not a good adjective at all. But if you like it a little thinner, then go with extra water. And you can see where it was a little thinner before. Now, it's really thickened up considerably here after we add the oats. So this is it. So it is officially done at this point. There is nothing else to do with it. It's a no-bake recipe. Don't have to stick this in the microwave. Like I said, you could batch this up and make a much larger portion of it, just multiply everything by 6, for example. And then throw it onto a baking sheet or into a glass dish, spread it out nice and evenly, throw it in the fridge, and then you can cut it up and portion it out like that. But it is absolutely delicious. It tastes way better than it has a right to taste, especially for how easy it is to make and how macro-friendly it is. Like I said, 49, 45, 5 proteins, carbs, and fats for this serving. You could use less protein powder. You could use fewer oats. You could use real peanut butter instead of the PB2 if you wanted to bring the carbs down a notch, bring up some fats. You got a lot of options to play with. So experiment with that. Check it out. Try it. See what you think.